Joining us is former senior advisor to the Newt Gingrich campaign, Randy Evans. Randy, good to have you with us. Also with us,
good to be here.
Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist for the New York Post, Michael Goodwin. Randy, let's start with, I have to tell you, I'm fascinated watching the way the left-wing news outlets, which is just about all of them, are playing this. Like this is a serious story with serious people trying to marginalize and delegitimize the president-elect. Your thoughts?
Well, two things. First of all, the only documented attempt to hack was by the Department of Homeland Security on the Georgia Secretary of State's election machines. And that was immediately brought to the attention of the Congress. The second is it proves that nobody actually understands how the computer systems work for elections. Each machine has a separate chip. In order to have a hacking, you would have to hack thousands of individual machines. You'd have to hack them all. That's just not feasible. They know that it's not feasible. They even attempted it themselves and figured out that until the votes had actually been counted and then revealed, you couldn't even access a mainstream of the numbers. No, it's just ridiculous.
I would hope, Michael, that people are taking into account how offended Vladimir Putin might be. He may be very angry that the United States believes his people would be so clumsy, so artless, as to leave fingerprints and hack the unhackable, as Randy put, and secondly, to leave their fingerprints at the DNC, but to have gotten away with the OPM hacking, with the Defense Department hacking, all of these to which there's been no response by the Obama government.
Right. Look, I do think it's very curious, Lou, that this story has come out anonymously from the CIA, presumably, to individual papers, Washington Post, New York Times, who just...
John Brennan, is that name found?
Right. The Times and the Washington Post eating it up like catnip because this is exactly what they want to hear.
Well, the Times, to their credit, they're saying this is just nonsense.
Well, they bury that in there, but that's not their headline on page one.
And they didn't say they wouldn't play with it and have a little fun.
Right, drive up the circulation for a couple of days. But look, I do think that there is a preposterous idea behind all this, as Randy was saying, the idea that this has become from hacking the email of John Podesta to hacking the election. Nobody's even saying that they hacked the election, but those electors are so desperate for anything to discredit Donald Trump that they are seizing on this and effectively lying about it.
You know what, Randy, to Michael's point here, I mean, I want a congressional investigation into why there was no congressional investigation and no action by the Obama administration upon learning that the Russians had hacked, as they claim, these 16 agencies. Wouldn't they have responded? I mean, what is going on here? Is this an entirely passive as well as politicized administration run by Barack Obama?
Well, absolutely. We saw that all the way from the investigation to the rigging of the Democratic primary down the road. But I'll tell you this, if the Russians wanted you to find their fingerprints, that's the only way you'd find their fingerprints. If they don't want you to know that they're involved, they're not going to leave anything. This all has to be manufactured because there's no way the Russians will do that. I thought it was just interesting that nobody ever talked about the Chinese. All we ever heard was the Chinese were the ultimate hackers. The only reason they picked the Russians is because they think there's a weak link there, because they think there's some kind of something going on that they may cobble a conspiracy theory together.
Do these Democratic fools, do these Democrats not realize that the warheads under the control of Vladimir Putin, they're sitting here fussing with him like, he's a non-entity.
Right.
If he's their idea of a scapegoat, I think they've badly measured and badly judged.
Well, look, I think what's extraordinary, too, Lou, is that Hillary Clinton and John Podesta have now jumped in both feet on this one. On the recounts, they kind of dabbled on the edge a little bit. We'll observe. We don't think it's going to make a difference. This time, they're all in that there's this great conspiracy
with 10 electors.
That's right, with 9 of, including all 9 Democrats. So what do they care? I mean, they're going to vote for Hillary Clinton no matter what.
At this point, Randy, the Democratic Party has had such an electoral loss. They have disintegrated to levels not seen since 1922. You add to the result the consequences of this madness on the part of Podesta, and all of the other discredited members of the Democratic National Committee, as well as his own campaign, I mean, I don't know what number you reach. If 1922 isn't the low point, how far do you think it's going to go?
Well, I think it'll keep going lower, but desperate times lead you to say desperate things and lead you to believe completely impossible things. And that's what's happening to the Democratic Party. They have no message. They have no leadership. They have no record. What are you left with, Lou? You're left with the imaginary. You're left with fantasy. And that's what we're getting to see every day.
Michael, you get the last word.
Yeah, look, I agree. I think this is a form of madness that has gripped the Democratic Party. They are so distraught at having lost. They can't believe they lost up and down the line. And this is their response, that it has to be overturned. I mean, it really is an attempt to subvert democracy because they didn't get their way.
And it is such a pathetic...
Eventually, I think we'll hear that aliens came along, Lou. That we're headed in that direction. Aliens stole the election. That's going to be the bottom line for the Democrats.
You know, it's interesting you say that because Podesta being a UFO, we're going to leave it there. Randy Evans, thanks so much. Michael Goodwin, thank you. Appreciate it, gentlemen.